The man with the torn jacket sun was just beginning to rise over downtown San Francisco. Warm orange light spilled across the glass towers and slick concrete sidewalks. The city was slowly waking up baristas, setting up joggers, passing. With earbuds in, early morning traffic humming through the heart of Silicon Valley. But just outside the headquarters of one of the most powerful tech companies in the world, a man sat silently on the cold cement, his back against a rusted lamp post. A small cardboard sign in his hands that read, "No work for food." He looked tired. No, not just tired. Worn down in a way that went beyond sleep. His clothes were stained and threadbare, his shoes mismatched, and his beard overgrown. But his eyes, though dulled by hardship, still held a flicker of something unbroken. Hope, maybe. Or desperation disguised as hope. Across the street, a black SUV pulled up to the curb. The back door opened, and Sundar Pichai stepped out, dressed. In a simple navy blue hoodie, dark jeans, and sneakers. No entourage, no camera flashes. Just him, holding a paper coffee cup in one hand and a notebook in the other. He liked arriving early. He said the quiet of the morning gave him space to think. But today something pulled his attention away from the company he led and toward the sidewalk across the street. He noticed the man, he noticed the sign. And more than anything, he noticed the way the man sat, not begging, not asking for pity. Just waiting. Sundar paused at the crosswalk. For a few seconds he hesitated. He had meetings, calls, deadlines, but something made him cross anyway. As Sundar approached, the man glanced up. His expression shifted from guarded to surprised, then back to blank. "Good morning," Sundar said gently. The man blinked. "You talking to me?" "Yeah," Sundar nodded. "I saw your sign." The man looked down at the cardboard. "Yeah, well, it ain't working. Been sitting here for 3 days. No even looks. I looked. So what now? You gonna give me $5 and walk off feeling like a saint?" Sundar smiled softly. "No, I'm not here to feel like anything. I just wanted to ask, what kind of work are you looking?" "FO." The man seemed taken aback. He sat up straighter, cleared his throat. "Any kind. I ain't picky. I can clean, carry stuff, fix small engines, even know a bit about wiring. Used to work construction and tech maintenance. Then life happened." Sundar lowered himself to the sidewalk and sat beside him, drawing a few startled glances from passersby. "Tech maintenance?" he asked. Double quotes. "Yeah, used to repair servers, data cabling. Nothing fancy, but I learned a lot on the job. I like solving problems, you know. What's your name?" "James." "Nice to meet you, James. I'm Sundar." "Yeah." James chuckled dryly. "I know who you are. Then you know I care about people who solve problems." James stared at him for a moment, unsure if he was being mocked. But there was no sarcasm in Sundar's tone, no pity either. Just a strange, unsettling sincerity. "Look," James said, his voice trembling now. "I've been out here for months. I've applied for jobs, walked into stores, tried shelters. Everything. I got no address, no phone. And nobody calls back even when I put the library as my contact. They just throw my paper away." Sundar listened quietly. He didn't interrupt, and that silence made James's eyes fill. "Sorry," James muttered. "Don't mean to dump all that on you." "Don't be sorry," Sundar said. "You've been trying. That takes strength." James looked down at his hands. They were calloused and dirt-stained, the nails chipped and cracked. "Strength don't buy breakfast." "No, it doesn't," Sundar replied. "But it builds foundations." A long pause settled between them, heavy with meaning. Then Sundar reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. "I want you to come to this address tomorrow morning. Ask for Lena. Tell her I sent you. She runs our facilities team. They keep everything running behind the scenes. It's not glamorous, but it's real, and we need people who know how to fix things." James stared at the card as if it were a lottery ticket. "You serious?" "Completely. What's the catch?" "No catch. Just one condition: you show up on time, ready to work. Give it your all. And if I mess up, then you learn and you try again. Same as everyone else. James didn't speak. His fingers trembled as he took the card. He nodded once, then again, and then something cracked inside him. He turned his head away quickly, wiping his eyes. Sundar stood. See you tomorrow, James. As he walked away, James looked down at the card again. The paper trembled in his grip. It felt heavier than anything he'd held in months. Not because of the ink or the print, but because of what it meant. Opportunity, dignity, a crack in the walls that had surrounded him for so long got later that night. James slept in the same spot under the lamppost. But something had changed. The city noise felt different. The wind less cruel. The sidewalk less like a prison. He had somewhere to be tomorrow. Someone was waiting. But just a few blocks away, in a sleek glass office tower, a senior executive named Marcus Roth sat fuming. At his desk, he had seen Sundar sit beside the homeless man. He had taken photos, and he didn't like what he saw. He's wasting time on street trash, Marcus muttered to himself, sipping expensive scotch. This isn't a charity. This is business. He pulled out his phone and sent a message to someone in operations. Keep an eye on Sundar. I think he's slipping. He had no idea that the man with the torn jacket would become the spark of something far bigger than any business plan he'd ever written, something that would shake the walls of corporate pride. And stir hearts across the world. Lena's list next morning. The city buzzed with its usual rhythm. But for James, everything felt new. The sidewalk under his feet didn't seem so cruel. The distant sounds of honking cars and barking dogs didn't drown his thoughts. He hadn't slept much. His nerves had kept him awake most of the night. But for the first time in months, it wasn't fear that kept his eyes open. It was something closer to excitement. Something he hadn't felt since before he lost his apartment, before the job cuts, before the sickness that had taken his mother and left him with no family too. Turned to James stared at the address Sundar had written on the card. It was a few blocks away from the main Google headquarters, tucked behind a row of trees and metal fencing. When he reached the front security booth, he hesitated. His heart pounded. He suddenly felt the full weight of his appearance, dirty. Hoodie, frayed jeans, shoes with holes in the soles. Would they even let him in? But then he remembered Sundar's words, just show up on time, ready to work. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. The security guard looked up, clearly surprised. Can I help you? Yeah. My name's James. I was told to come here and ask for Lena. Sundar Pichai sent me. The guard blinked, his posture straightened. Mr. Pichai? James nodded, clutching the card tightly. Wait here, the guard said quickly, picking up the phone. 5 minutes later, a woman emerged from the building's glass doors. She wore a khaki utility jacket, a tool belt slung around her waist, and a clipboard in her hand. Her brown hair was tied back in a bun, and her expression was brisk but not unfriendly. You're James? She asked. Yes, ma'am. No need for ma'am. Just Lena. Come with me. James followed her through the doors and into a large oak space filled with tools. Electrical panels, storage lockers, and shelves, stacked with everything from Ethernet cables to industrial cleaning supplies. It didn't look like the kind of office he imagined at a tech company, but that made it feel even more real to him. This is our facility's operations center, Lena said, not slowing down as she spoke. We're the backbone. We fix what? Breaks. We clean what others ignore. We keep everything running while the world upstairs types on their laptops. James nodded. It was familiar. Honest work. Sundar told me you have experience with server rooms. Yeah, mostly repair and wiring. Used to work on racks, troubleshoot overheating, cable routing. She turned to look at him, her eyes narrowing. Slightly. How long ago? 4 years. Before my company downsized, I couldn't find anything after that. Lena studied him. You got a place to stay? Not yet. You eat. Not since yesterday morning. She handed him a granola bar from her jacket pocket. This ain't a rescue mission, James. I am not here to feel good about myself, but I know what it's like to be knocked down. And I know what it looks like when someone's ready to get back up. He took the bar with shaking hands. Thank you. This is how it works, Lena continued. You get 3 days. Show me what you've got. Prove that you want to be here. We've had a lot of problems, busted ceiling panels, finicky vac units, cable nests, and conference rooms that look like spaghetti disasters. If you can help fix them, you've got a shot. What if I don't know how? Then you ask. You learn. Just don't stand around and wait for someone to do it for you. She handed him a uniform plain gray overalls with the Google Facilities logo stitched above the chest. She didn't say anything about his smell or the stains on his hoodie. She just pointed to the locker room. Get changed. Meet me in Bay 3 in 10 minutes. When James stepped into that small locker room and saw himself in the mirror still, scruffy, still tired, but wearing that uniform, it hit him like a wave. He wasn't invisible anymore. He was part of something by midday. James had already fixed 2 Ethernet cable panels and cleaned a ventilation duct that had been clogging for weeks. He asked questions. He stayed busy. He listened carefully. Lena watched him closely from a distance, but said little. She just made quiet notes on her clipboard. When they broke for lunch, Lena sat beside him on the loading dock, sharing her sandwich. You learn fast, she said. I have to. You remind me of my brother. He fell on hard times too. Died 2 years ago. Drugs. He couldn't find a... Way back. James looked down at his hands. I was close. Not drugs. Just giving up. You didn't? No. Because someone sat next to me and talked like I mattered. Lena didn't respond right away. She took a long sip of her coffee. She said, I've been here for 10 years. Built this team from scratch. I've had good workers. And lazy ones? But no one's ever been recommended by Sundar Pichai himself. I still don't understand why he did it, James said quietly. Maybe he saw something in you forgot was there. They sat in silence for a moment before Lena stood. Come on. I want you to see the rooftop. The rooftop. Yeah, it's where the servers are. James followed her up 3 flights of stairs and through a steel access door that led to the open rooftop of the building. There, nestled among humming equipment and solar panels, was a narrow row of server cabinets housed in a climate-controlled enclosure. It had been overheating, Anita said. Can't figure out why. 2 teams looked already. You feel like giving it a try? James didn't hesitate. He opened one of the panels, crouched down, and began tracing the cables, checking airflow vents, and testing the fans. Within minutes, his hands moved with confidence, guided by muscle memory. He found a partially blocked vent, a loose grounding, wire, and a fan motor stuttering with inconsistent voltage. He looked up at Lena. This panel's drawing too much current from a single source, and the vent's jammed with dust. I can reroute the cable and clean the block. Lena raised an eyebrow. You're sure? Positive. Then do it. James worked with the precision of someone who had once known his craft and never truly forgotten it. When he finished, the hum of the servers shifted to a smoother, steadier rhythm. Lena checked the monitor beside the rack. The temperature readings had already dropped by 6 degrees. She let out a low whistle. You weren't kidding. James smiled, for the first time in what felt like forever. Feels good to fix something. You might have just earned yourself a permanent badge. As they walked back down, something happened that neither of them noticed. A young intern from the marketing team had come up to the roof moments earlier to retrieve a misplaced drone camera. She had filmed a few shots of the skyline for a campus. Real and accidentally left her drone running as it captured the interaction between Lena and James. She didn't recognize James, but she did recognize the way Lena spoke to him. That clip, 23 seconds long, would later go viral, but not yet for now. Back inside the building, Marcus Roth watched the surveillance footage of Sundar meeting James the day before. He paused the video, zooming in on their faces. His expression darkened. What are you planning, Sundar? He muttered. He opened a file labeled Executive Concerns and started a private email thread. We need to monitor this. If he keeps wasting time on people like this, we'll lose credibility with investors. Marcus had no idea that the ripple Sundar had started wasn't just going to shake the company. It was going to shake the entire world. Asterisk the 23-second. Clip B, the time the sun had fully risen over the campus the next morning. The entire facilities team was already hard at work. Lena moved with her usual precision, directing teams to inspect faulty wiring on the third floor and check a faulty motion sensor in the west wing. James followed closely behind her, a tool belt secured around his waist and a quiet determination in his step. Though his uniform still bore a faint trace of last night's sweat and dust, something in his posture had shifted. He stood a little taller, breathed a little deeper, no longer merely surviving, but becoming, for James, day two. Felt like walking a tightrope between his old world and something terrifyingly new. He had never been inside a workplace this structured since his last job 4 years ago, yet he picked up the flow quickly. Lena didn't coddle. She pushed, tested, and occasionally barked orders, but she also listened. When James suggested a faster way to manage Ethernet labels in a messy server closet, she didn't brush it off. She gave him the space to try it. And it worked. You're solving problems most of our tech consultants couldn't figure out, she said during lunch, tossing him an apple. You sure you don't have some secret diploma hiding in your sock? James chuckled softly. Nah. Just a lot of nights spent reading manuals when I couldn't sleep. Learning kept me sane when I had nowhere else to go. She looked at him carefully. You ever think about training others? Me? I'm not exactly the model teacher. Doesn't matter. You've been through hell. That kind of knowledge is worth more than anything you can print on paper. Before James could respond, her walkie-talkie crackled to life. Lena, you copy? Go ahead. We've got a leak in the innovation lab. Water's dripping near the east wall. You better come quick. They both stood immediately. Lena looked at James. You up for a field trip? He nodded. Lead the way. The innovation lab was located in one of the newer buildings. A gleaming architectural marvel filled with sleek prototypes, robotic arms, and glass conference pods suspended over a garden atrium. But even in a tech paradise, plumbing could still betray you. Water dripped rhythmically from a pipe above one of the display walls, pooling near a motion-sensitive floor that powered some kind of kinetic demo. James crouched down immediately, inspecting the pipe's curvature, tracing it back to a small valve that looked rusted through. This whole section's been patched before, he murmured. Looks like someone used temporary sealant and forgot to log it. Lena nodded. Can you fix it? Need a pipe cutter, valve clamp, and resealant foam. Give me 20 minutes. As James worked, a few engineers peered in curiously. Most of them didn't recognize him. Some watched with vague amusement. A few muttered comments about maintenance always interrupting projects. But one man, tall and suited in charcoal gray, stood silently near the doorway. Marcus Roth. He watched James methodically slice away the faulty pipe joint, wipe it down, and fit it with a new clamp. The fix wasn't just functional, it was clean. Elegant, even, and it made Marcus uneasy. He didn't like the idea of this stranger, this homeless man turned handyman, being praised in the very heart of the company's prized lab. After James packed up, Marcus stepped forward. You new here? James turned. Yes, sir. Where'd you work before this? James hesitated. No place recently. So, what qualified you to step into a place like this? James didn't flinch. Knowing how things work, and fixing what's broken. Marcus raised an eyebrow. We'll see how long that lasts. He walked off without another word. Lena sighed. That man's allergic to kindness. Across campus, in the marketing department, an intern named Mira was editing footage for an internal morale video, a simple compilation of team events, morning routines, and campus life meant to inspire employees. While scrubbing through raw drone footage, she stumbled on a curious clip recorded 2 days earlier, the rooftop shot with Lena and James. At first, it seemed ordinary. But then she listened to the audio. You remind me of my brother. Was close, not drugs. Just didn't know. Because someone sat next to me and talked like I mattered. Those words, they stopped her cold. She replayed the clip again and again. The weight of it settled into her chest like a stone dropped in water. She knew that voice, Lena. But the man, he was new. A stranger? And yet his honesty, his rawness, it was the kind of authenticity that no marketing team could script. Me, RA, didn't intend to share it widely. At first, she just clipped the 23-second exchange and added light captions. She named the file, "He Talked Like I Mattered." Then she uploaded it to her private page with the caption, "This moment broke me." Sometimes people just need to be seen. She didn't tag the company, didn't mention names. But within 3 hours, it had 100,000 views. By midnight, it had hit 2.3 million. By morning, it was everywhere. James had no idea any of it had happened. He showed up on time again that morning, wearing the same uniform, a fresh pair of socks Lena had given him, and a smile he hadn't worn in years. But the moment he stepped into the building, things felt different. People stared, whispered, smiled. One woman from ours stopped him in the hallway. "I just wanted to say thank you for what you said." James blinked. "What I said?" She pulled out her phone and showed him the video. James froze. "How did this get out?" "Someone uploaded it. It's gone viral. People are calling you the man with the quiet voice and the honest eyes. There's already a Reddit thread about it." James stumbled back slightly. His heart thundered. I didn't know. Just then, Lena appeared. "You okay?" "Why? Why is everyone looking at me?" "Because you told the truth," Lena said, and they felt it. Before he could respond, his phone, a new one Lena had helped him get buzzed with a message. It was from Sundar. Saw the video. "Let's talk today. 3 p.m. my office. James read it twice. He wants to see me." "You'd better not keep him waiting," Lena said, smiling. At exactly 3 p.m. James stood outside Sundar's office on the top floor of the Google Tower. His palms were sweaty, his chest tight. The executive assistant opened the door, and Sundar greeted him with the same calm warmth he'd shown that first morning on the sidewalk. "Come in, James." The office was spacious but minimal. Glass walls offered sweeping views of the city. A whiteboard full of scribbled ideas stood behind the desk. There were no gold nameplates or signs of ego, just quiet focus. "I saw the clip," Sundar said. "You didn't mean for it to go public, did you?" "No, sir." "But it did, and people listened. They saw something in you, something important." James swallowed hard. "I'm not trying to be a hero. I just wanted to work." "You are?" "Working, but you've also started something. People are writing to us, not just here around the world. People who've been ignored, people who gave up on getting second chances. They saw you, and now they believe maybe they can try again too." James's throat tightened. He looked down at his hands, suddenly unsure what to do with them. "You have a choice," Sundar continued. "You can stay behind the scenes, quietly keep fixing things. Or you can help us build something bigger, a program, a pathway for people who are overlooked, not just to get a job, but to rebuild their lives. You'll be the first, the blueprint, and maybe even a mentor." James's voice cracked. "Why me?" Sundar looked at him with steady eyes. "Because you showed up when you had nothing left, and you gave your all. That's what leadership looks like." Outside the office, the company buzzed with rumors. Inside, a homeless man sat across from one of the most powerful tech leaders in the world, no longer a ghost on a sidewalk, but a voice starting to echo across continents. Asterisk the storm before the recent news spread faster than wildfire. By the time James left Sundar's office, the internet had already begun reshaping his story into something larger than either of them expected. Thousands of comments flooded under the viral clip. Some were inspired. Others were skeptical. But all eyes were now on the quiet man with the tired eyes and strong hands. The man who fixed a leaking pipe and unknowingly sparked a fire in the hearts of millions. When James returned to the facility's floor later that afternoon, his coworkers, greeted him with nods, high fives, and even a few teary smiles. Lena clapped him on the back with a grin, but her tone stayed grounded. "You're becoming a bit of a celebrity," she said. "I didn't ask for any of this," James whispered, the pressure of sudden visibility weighing heavy on his shoulders. None of us do. But sometimes life drags us out of the shadows whether we're ready or not. James sat at the edge of the tool bench, rubbing his palms against his knees. "I just wanted to work. Fix what's broken. Not stand in front of cameras. Then stay true to that. Fix what's broken. Just now, maybe it's not pipes you're fixing anymore. Maybe it's people." That same evening, in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the city, Marcus Roth paced back and forth like a lion in a cage. He was fuming. The board had just finished a video call with global partners. Half the conversation had been dominated by James' story. Investors were asking for quotes. Reporters were requesting interviews, and Sundar was embracing it all. "He's turning this company into a charity case," Marcus snapped, slamming a file down on the table. "This isn't innovation, it's a distraction." A younger executive, Jordan, leaned forward cautiously. "With respect, Marcus, the media coverage has been overwhelmingly positive. Social engagement has tripled since yesterday. Stock sentiments trending up. You think this is sustainable?" Marcus spat. "You think people want to buy into a tech empire run by emotion?" He paused, then looked around the room. "We need to shut it down. Not publicly, but quietly. Before this story grows legs we can't control." Jordan hesitated. "What are you suggesting? We find something? Anything? Discredit the guy? A criminal record, mental history, financial fraud. People don't stay clean after living on the streets for 4 years." Jordan flinched. "You want me to dig into his past?" "Yes, dig deep. If we can't bury the story, we'll bury the man." Unaware of the storm brewing above him, James spent the next week helping Lena draft the blueprint for what would soon be called the Second Chance Initiative, a pilot program designed to recruit, train, and support skilled individuals who had fallen through the cracks of society. The idea was simple but radical. Instead of filtering candidates through rigid resumes and narrow algorithms, it would begin with a conversation. A chance to prove worth through action, not paperwork. James poured himself into the work. Every evening, he stayed late with Lena, writing modules, listing tools, planning mentorships. He didn't talk much about his past, but the lessons from it bled into every idea. Housing partnerships, mental health support, laundry facilities on site. Things most companies never considered because they never had to. Meanwhile, Sundar pushed the initiative forward. He spoke about it in interviews, tweeted support for those who show up when it's hardest, and quietly allocated resources for the program to begin with 5 pilot cities. But not everyone was on board. On a gray Monday morning, 2 men in suits showed up at the facility's bay. They didn't introduce themselves, didn't offer smiles. They carried tablets and folders. One of them, a tall man with sharp eyes and a clipped tone, approached James during a break. "James Parker?" "Yes, we're conducting a routine background verification. Mind if we ask you a few questions?" James stiffened. He looked at Lena, who had just walked in. Her smile faded instantly. "You have a badge, sir?" she asked the taller man. He flipped it open quickly, too fast for her to read. "This is company-approved protocol," he said. "We've received some concerns regarding this employee's history." James looked down. The weight of old shame returned like a cold hand gripping his spine. "You mean because I was homeless?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he flipped his tablet and began reading. "You were evicted from your apartment in Oakland 4 years ago. 2 failed job applications at Network Systems, Inc. 1 charge for loitering near a public library. You spent 2 nights in a city shelter under an alias Parker J. Care to explain that?" James swallowed hard. "I wasn't hiding. I just didn't want my name on a list." "Why?" "Because shelters get raided. People get profiled. I wanted to be invisible." The man nodded once, cold and mechanical. "You understand this could be perceived as dishonest?" You understand I survived? James replied, his voice steady but laced with fire. Let's not get emotional. The man said, no. Lena stepped forward, her eyes blazing. Let's talk about what emotional strength looks like. Showing up here every day when you've had every reason to give up. Rebuilding your life from scraps. If you want to dig into his past, maybe start with the part where the system failed him, not where he tried to stay alive. The men exchanged glances, clearly thrown off by her response. We'll file our report. One said, You do that, Lena snapped. That night, James sat alone on the roof of the campus. The servers hummed softly behind him, their gentle vibration. A strange comfort. He stared at the city below, lights flickering like tiny stars. So many lives, so many stories. He thought about the report. About how easily his entire journey could be undone by a single misunderstanding or cruel decision. When footsteps approached. He didn't turn around. They said they were filing a report. He murmured, double quotes, I know. Sundar's voice said softly. Behind him, what happens now? Now? Sundar said, you keep going. You don't stop. Not because of men in suits or papers in folders. You didn't get here because of a resume. You got here because you refused to disappear. James looked up. What if they push harder? What if they force you to drop me? Sundar walked to the edge and looked out at the city with him. Then we fight. And if they come after you, they come after me? For a moment, James said nothing. Then he whispered, why are you doing all this? Because I see what the world could look like if more people like you had a voice. James turned, emotion catching in his throat. I'm not special. You're not supposed to be, Sundar said. That's the point. Below them, the world kept spinning. But up there, something was rising, not just a program, not just a story got a movement. Asterisk one spark, one world morning avalanche, arrived quietly, without fanfare. There were no red carpets, no flashing lights, no staged press conferences. Just a modest auditorium inside Google's Mountain View campus, filled with folding chairs, warm coffee, and a quiet buzz of anticipation. A new sign had been posted at the entrance, simple yet powerful in its language. Second Chance Initiative. Day 1. James stood behind the curtain, adjusting the cuffs of his gray uniform. It wasn't tailored. It didn't shine. But it was clean, and it carried the weight of something far more important than fashion. It represented a life rebuilt. Beside him, Lena was adjusting the projector settings while nervously sipping coffee from a chipped mug. Sundar had arrived 15 minutes earlier, stopping to greet every volunteer, every support worker, every new applicant who'd lined up outside the building at sunrise. Over 300 people had shown up. Not reporters, not executives, not influencers, but men and women like James, asterisk a single mother, who'd aged out of foster care with no support and no work history. A Navy veteran who'd been couch surfing for 2 years after being discharged without proper benefits. A man. A wheelchair who had applied for over 70 jobs and never received a callback. A young woman who'd spent 3 years battling addiction and was now clean, but jobless. They didn't come for charity. They came for a real shot. Asterisk. James took a deep breath as the lights dimmed and Sundar stepped onto the small stage. The room went silent. Thank you for being here, Sundar began. Today isn't about fixing people. It's about fixing the systems that forget them. He paused, scanning the faces in the audience. We believe in innovation, but we've forgotten the most powerful innovation of all, believing in someone when the world has already walked past them. The audience held its breath. This initiative isn't just about training or employment. It's about dignity. It's about recognizing that resilience, experience, and heart can't always be captured on a resume. Then, with a warm smile, he added, and none of this would have happened without one man, someone who reminded us what strength looks like. He turned and gestured to the curtain. James, would you join me? James stepped out slowly. Wasn't used to stages. His hands trembled slightly as he approached the podium, and for a moment he just stood there, unsure of how to begin. Then he spoke. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't echo, but it carried weight, 4 months ago, I was sleeping under a street lamp 3 blocks from here. People walked past me like I wasn't real. I started to believe them. I started to believe that I was invisible, that I had nothing left. He paused. No one moved. But then someone looked at me, not with pity, not with charity, just as a person. And that's all it took to change everything. He turned toward Sundar. He didn't give me a job. He gave me a chance to earn one. James. Look back at the crowd. I don't have a degree. I don't come from money, but I can work. I can build. I can solve problems. And so can all of you. He stepped back. The room erupted in applause, not the forced kind, not polite claps. Real, raw, thunderous applause that shook the walls. By the end of the week, the Second Chance Initiative had onboarded its first wave of trainees. Within a month, partnerships were formed with other major tech companies. Within 3 months, similar programs launched in Chicago, Austin, Seattle, and Detroit. What began as one opportunity for one man became a global network of support. And James, he didn't vanish into a cushy executive office or pose for magazine covers. He stayed in the facilities team, wearing the same uniform. But now he trained others. He taught electrical basics, data wiring, equipment maintenance. He started leading seminars on resilience and problem solving. People flew from other states to hear him speak. His name became a quiet symbol of hope in places where hope had long disappeared. Shelters played the rooftop video. Community centers hung posters of him beside the words, "You're not broken." Even high schools began sharing his story in morning assemblies, teaching students that failure wasn't the end of the road, but a curve in it. But not everyone celebrated. Marcus Roth watched the movement grow with thinly veiled disdain. Though the board had publicly embraced the program, Marcus's private ambitions had been bruised. He had filed report after report trying to undermine the initiative. When that failed, he tried to plant stories in the media. That too fell flat. And then one day, during a quarterly board review, Sundar stood and quietly announced that James had been appointed to a newly created role director of operations for Second Chance Tech. James, a homeless man, now an executive, tasked with scaling the very program Marcus had tried to bury. The look on Marcus's face was never captured on camera. But everyone in the room felt the moment shift, the old world, where power belonged only to the polished and pedigreed, had cracked. Something new had taken root. Months later. During a rare moment of calm, James sat alone in the same spot where he had once met Sundar for the first time. The sidewalk outside the headquarters hadn't changed. The same rusted lamppost stood there, same cracks in the pavement, same city noise buzzing in the distance. But James had changed. His clothes were still simple, his beard neatly trimmed. He carried a messenger bag filled with folders, tools, and handwritten notes from students in the program. One note in particular he kept in his front pocket. It was from a young woman who wrote, "You didn't just fix wires. You fixed me. Thank you for seeing me before the world did." He read it whenever the weight of it all felt too much. Joined him moments later, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Funny how things come full circle," Sundar said. "It still feels unreal," James whispered. "I keep waiting to wake up and find myself back on that bench." "You're not going back, James. How can you be so sure?" "Because you didn't climb out alone. You brought others with you." And that's the kind of story the world remembers. They sat in silence, sipping coffee as the city moved around them. No cameras, no audience. Just 2 men. One who built an empire. Another who reminded him what it was truly for. As the wind picked up, James looked out over the sidewalk and noticed someone new, a young man with a sleeping bag and tired eyes, standing where James once had. He was holding a sign. It read, "I can fix things. Please give me a chance." James stood slowly. "You got a minute?" "Yes, Sundar, always." Together, they walked toward the man. Because sometimes all it takes is one person to look, and everything changes. Asterisk.